Hello, everybody. You are listening to Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs, and I am your host, Shelby Oleschlager. Our mission here is to help entrepreneurs make a difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests to give you the best concepts and strategies to fast track your business. Today, our special guest is Valerie Trapunsky. So I hope that's right.
It's perfect.
Okay. First of all, Valerie, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And to get started, please tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited. So my company is ChatterBoss. We are a remote executive assistant company. I launched it 6 years ago after a career as a personal assistant and a chief of staff for high net worth individuals and A-list celebrities. And the idea that I had after having that experience working with these individuals who are kind of in the top echelons of their industries and are really using their executive assistants to the max was how to give that kind of an experience to entrepreneurs and to business owners and how to delight them in the process. So it's been a really fun journey. Learning from entrepreneurs, working with incredible service providers who are executive assistants, and just being in the middle of that matchmaking process has been so fun.
That sounds so cool. And I'm curious, just to go back a little bit, when you were this assistant, I'm curious, how did that kind of come about, and what were some of the big takeaways that you learned that now you use in your ChatterBoss platform?
Yeah, so really, I started my career in advertising, and I am the kind of person that always is looking for something new, something fun, a new adventure. And so I was actually in the process of just moving to a different agency. I saw myself as someone who's going to kind of climb the ranks of the advertising world. And then I got an opportunity to support someone as an executive and personal assistant. And I didn't really know what that role entails, or, I had some kind of assumptions, maybe biases in terms of, what that role is. But it ended up being something that was the exact right fit kind of for where I was and for my personality, because it was something that was super fast paced. And being an assistant for that individual, I was really in a ton of different things, including, business things, personal things, travel things, finance things. And that kind of satiated my curiosity and kind of desire to have my hand in a lot of different things. So it was a really, fun experience and different. And I started to learn, what is an executive assistant? What is a personal assistant? And I discovered, wow, what a power position this is, which I think that people don't see it that way when they hear the title for the first time, or at least I didn't. I thought, wow, I'm taking a demotion. I went to college, and this is, this feels like a step down. But in fact, when you are supporting an individual, an entrepreneur, a founder, a CEO, you really have a view into everything that they're doing. So you are like the second set of ears and eyes for the CEO a lot of the times. And wow, do you get to learn, and like, wow, the incredible stories that you kind of, you get to, I don't know, like be like a fly on the wall for, but also a participant in.
That's incredible. That's actually such a cool experience, because they always say you are who you hang out with. So if you're hanging out with these people, it makes you feel like, hey, this stuff's possible for me too. And, then you start your own business and stuff. So what was that process like, of the idea into actually implementing it to what it is today?
Yeah, there was kind of a pit stop, because what on the way from being an executive assistant to launching the company, which I knew that the business realm was interesting for me. And I, before I actually moved forward with the idea. It took about a year and a half to kind of actually put all of the steps together and to kind of take the plunge. But on the way there, because I knew it would have to be, I wanted it to be something virtual. I knew that I wanted to kind of continue leveraging what I had already learned in this industry. So I knew those two things would have to come together. And when I was making that jump, I realized if I have a goal of being the #1 remote executive assistant company for entrepreneurs, yes, I know how to be the best executive assistant or what's required of an individual, but what I don't know is the virtual space. And so I took a pit stop on the way into Upwork, and I became one of their rising stars, or whatever is their kind of badge. But I moved up pretty quickly on Upwork. And it was a lot of work, but it also gave me a window into, if you're a service provider, if you're an virtual executive assistant, what's the process for you, like the bidding process, finding a customer, how do those relationships, they're just different. The fundamentals of the relationship is the same, but the day-to-day is quite different, and it had its own challenges. So I did that for 6 to 7 months, and it was a really cool experience. And I think that from there, I was ready to go, because I merged, what I knew from virtual life is real life, but what I knew from my personal experience with what I now learned from interacting with individuals virtually. And that's how we started.
That's actually really interesting. Just taking that little detour, like you said, to learn how it is going to look virtually makes so much sense, instead of, some people, they might create this thing, but they don't even know if it's proven yet. Like, it's the idea, but they don't even, has it been tested? So that's really cool. So can we dive a little bit into what ChatterBoss actually is? If people are listening, like virtual assistants for high execs, they might not understand. So tell us really what this is trying to solve as far as ChatterBoss.
So we work with individuals, solopreneurs, individuals who have 2 to 3 people on their team, people who have 10 to 20, people who are executives at organizations that have 100, 200 plus employees, kind of everything in between. Our goal is to support the individual in that executive and primarily the founder seat, regardless of the size of the organization. And the reason that we're able to kind of cover all of these different types of entrepreneurs is because we are designed to kind of grow with the individual and with the company as it grows. So our clients, they know that they need administrative help. In fact, anyone who wears the founder, CEO, or executive title has an administrative burden that they're carrying. And the statistic is that it's 30 to 60% of your week that can be cannibalized by administrative tasks. So whether you're just starting out and the administrative burden is, 1 hour a week to, 30, 40 hours a week. The idea with us is that you should start getting the help almost immediately, because you want to train yourself in handing off and delegating those tasks versus waiting, for you to have spent a year kind of handling them on your own. You start to get used to it. One of our clients uses the analogy, like it's kind of mean not when I say it out loud, but if you're boiling the frog, that if you put a frog into water and it is, and you turn up the heat little by little, it will not realize when the water got too hot, and it will actually perish. I don't know who create, how do people know this? They try to do this. This is so mean. But the analogy of it from a lot of people's sense made sense, which is that if you are starting on these administrative tasks and then, you just take on, 15 minutes more, I'm just going to do this a little bit more, then sooner or later, your entire function, or a big part of your function, becomes administrative, and you're no longer working at all in your zone of genius, or very little in your zone of genius. And then it's a huge handover project. So you want to kind of start getting yourself into the mindset of handing it off in the beginning, even if it's a few minutes here and there, so that continue to grow. So we can support individuals as they're starting out. And then of course, as they grow, they not only get a dedicated person with us, but they also get additional team members. We believe that a one assistant model is a bottleneck because something could happen to your assistant and then you're back on shouldering, kind of carrying all of these administrative items yourself. So the idea is that you have an assistant and you have a backup. Both of these individuals work together. If one is out, the other one steps in. And so that's why for larger organizations, it makes sense still to go with a model like ours because they have that continuity and security.
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And just talking about scaling, can we chat about that? What was it like for you? You mentioned that when your clients are scaling, you're kind of scaling as well. Can we dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So, we've been kind of in steady growth mode since we started in 2016. COVID did bring us into very interesting territory. We were kind of on the up and up, and then that March we were, I think we had our slowest month that we've ever had since the first month of launching. It was super scary. And then it took us time to build back up. And so it probably took us half a year to build back up to where we were before COVID. But then after that, we've just continued to grow at a pace that we haven't seen before. And so, we attribute a lot of that to when we were starting. People would say, what's a virtual assistant? Can you explain to me what it is? What do they do? And you kind of had to sell people. A big question was like, but isn't this a role that has to be done in person? What am I going to miss out on? So people had those objections. No one asks that anymore. And so it's just about, everyone understand. I think the majority of entrepreneurs understand that mostly everything can be done virtually in the business space now. And so it's been an interesting ride. It's been an interesting 2 years, and, we're projecting into the future, and it's just, it's really exciting. And it's very humbling. Like, it's been a very cool ride.
Mm-hmm. That's like the beauty of entrepreneurship though, is it is just a very cool ride, and enjoying the process of it and every challenge and good part that comes with it, you have to just really enjoy. So how was it like, I guess, when you have been growing and you just said remote work, was there any sort of challenges that you faced that you had to overcome as far as that?
On a personal level, I found it very challenging when I first started working remotely. And this was, I guess no one else in my network was working remotely. It was just me. And so it was, I struggled. And then when COVID hit, I was already used to it. So I was like, oh, great, guys, I can, I can help here. But I think being in a traditional school setting and then in traditional work setting, we are used to productivity happening in a very particular way. And so what I struggled with for a few years, and I felt like also, felt really sad and at times even like a little bit depressed, like that it was very hard because I like social interactions. So I had to find different ways to kind of get those when working remotely. But it took me a very long time, longer than I wish it took, to realize that, your workspace is very, very important in productivity. So you must have kind of a dedicated space. I lived for a time in a studio apartment, and I had a little desk, and I had, these like little, in New York, everything's little. Yeah. And so I would work a lot from the same place that I was eating, or, sometimes from bed, or sometimes, from my small little, not a couch, love seat. And I had a very hard time. I was very unproductive in that apartment. And it's because I didn't have a dedicated space that I was, that I gave up in that apartment to work. And I think that, like, knowing what I know now, I would have given up another piece of furniture. And I would have definitely put a desk that I can actually sit at, that I could sit every day and do the work, because it's magical what happens when, like, your brain knows this is the place to work. I think it's the same way that I think meditation works. They say that if you want to get really good at meditating, you actually want to do it in the same place every single day. Then when you sit down, your brain says, now I'm going to meditate. So when you sit down at your desk, now you have to work. So it took a while, but it's, now it feels great. I can't imagine kind of going back.
Exactly. And it is cool, you learn stuff from that too, that you can take with you moving forward. And just that idea, like that one small thing that you learn, I'm sure you can apply to your team now. So what is that like as far as, being a team manager with this company? How are you able to keep people, like productive or on task? Like you said, you have two people that go back and forth. Like how are you able to make it just like a very well-oiled machine that is effective?
Yeah. So, we went with the contractor model. So all of our assistants are independent contractors. And so there is something with that where, well, a big part of that is that you have to relinquish control over how things are done, because independent contractors, they choose their own time. They choose how they work. They choose who they work with. You cannot tell an independent contractor, how to do something and when to do something. So it's been a really interesting exercise. I think that, just on, as a lesson for myself, kind of being a person that, in specific areas, they're chosen areas, not in everything, but there's chosen areas for me where could be like a control freak. I could have like very specific preferences. And here you can't really have preferences, but you do. And so it's been an interesting, ride. As I notice, the more you kind of give up, the more you have the possibility of getting, and people do it with excitement when they don't have to do it. So, where I'm watching a lot of organizations saying, we're going back to the office because it's a control thing. And again, there's certain industries that, yes, working out of an office is the right thing some of the time because of the kind of work that they do. But if it's for the purposes of controlling the other, you get a lot more productivity, but you have to figure out what makes people want to, do the things that they do. So we had to really, kind of learn, because again, we're not telling them what to do. We had to really learn how to find the right person that's going to match our culture. And if it's someone that matches our culture, then they come in and they do things the way that they find it, to be right. And it works. And so then we're hyper focused on the match and who the person is. And then they have total freedom to act in and manage their clients in any which way that they want.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. And it's kind of cool that you just said that you kind of gave up that sense of control and you found you got more work done. And maybe it's because, do you think they have more flexibility where they can kind of mold it to what suits them best, and then they're actually able to get it done?
Yeah. Individuals who are coming from a traditional work structure, there is, kind of this like concept of golden handcuffs. Now, some individuals, and I hope many are going into those employment situations, are really happy with them, and like they're going into it for their reasons. But if you're in those positions because you're not so passionate, but it brings the paycheck and, it covers your health insurance and it kind of brings the stability that you need for your family, then your enthusiasm is lower and you're just kind of like going through the emotions of your day to day. I think that especially in these last few years, people are like, new professions are coming out that, we've never had before. These opportunities that people are finding for themselves that they haven't had before. So I think that people are just pretty excited to be able to manage their life in a way that they want. And when they're finding that freedom to do it that way, like if you are, it's fascinating the range of the different assistants that are on our team that, they've built their life in the way that they want. And this is, and then ChatterBoss becomes a part of it. We have individuals who are in the process of creating their own like farms, and they're kind of off the grid and they have animals, and then they do this, as, it fits into their life. People homeschooling, people, kind of traveling and like in their RV. fascinating. And you might think, whoa, if someone's traveling or they have these goats and maybe they're being distracted, but it's actually, it fulfills them. And a person who is kind of happier and able to pursue these hobbies and not having to give up those parts of themselves just brings, more of themselves to their activities. And I think our clients really greatly benefit from just having happy assistants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it totally resonates with people too, when they feel the joy of what they're doing, or they're genuinely happy in their life. And then they're, able to really share that and like kind of transfer that energy across. So I think that is really cool and a really good point to bring up for businesses or anyone, because it might be stressful. Like I'm sure you feel that sometimes, like it could be really stressful, but I think allowing this really would help with like you said, the culture initially. Having that culture is so important. So I'm curious now with what you've been doing, I'm sure you have a bit of a vision or goal with where you'd like to see yourself. So in, let's say, the next 12 months, like what would you like to, like, where do you see yourself in another year?
We've been really prioritizing in this market. I think that there is such an opportunity to grow really, really fast. And for me, I've been considering that it's also an opportunity to burn out fast. And I know that that's not for all companies and that's not all for all entrepreneurs. But for us and for myself, I have been so lucky. We now have 9 full-time employees in addition to 150 remote executive assistants who are contractors. And so my biggest priority is my employees and the individuals. They're running my team. So they're running the entire business. And so this year for us was, we initially kind of made our goals and then we said, you know what, let's cut them in half. Because we want to make sure that we make the strongest possible foundation. And what's really cool about building your foundation slowly is, and really thoughtfully and carefully, is that somehow it's like that culture starts to have a life of its own. When I listen to our consultations or when I listen to our onboardings or when I see some of the written communication between ourselves and our clients, I'm like, this is a complete extension of how I dreamed it to be. And now it's almost like more and more people can do this. In the beginning, I think sometimes entrepreneurs feel like only I can do this. And then you start to see, wow, like if I really invest the time and I train people properly and I know what I'm about, then kind of people mirror it back to you. So that's been incredible. So we've had the most amazing team ever. And so my biggest priority is not to burn those individuals because I dream that, we have them forever and ever and we all grow together. So we kind of cut our goals in half for this year. And I believe that it was the right decision because people are like, their calendars are full, but they're feeling good. And something that our client success manager recently said that was really, I felt really proud of. With the culture that we've built, she said, my kids never get the short end of the stick with me working this job, because I have a day that starts and ends and I am just, I'm full when I'm with them. And I was like, wow, that's what life is about. So, for next year, I think that our foundation is strong enough that, whereas this year we put our goal to triple in size, I would like to 6x in size at the end of next year. And I think that's possible now with this strong foundation that we've built.
That is so interesting and so nice that you said that, because like I feel like it could be such a misconception of like rushing it and just forcing this stuff, where your approach seems to be so much more of like the authentic path that it's going to take. And it's obviously really shown to prove successful for you. And I think that's really awesome. So one thing I'd like to finish off with is where can people find you and what would your ideal client look like?
So you can find us on the web, chatterboss.com, BOSS. You can also find us in the iOS and Google App Store, ChatterBoss, BOSS. And our ideal client is, it's true that we service a really wide net, right? Anyone who wears the entrepreneur hat. But I can say that we like to say that, we don't want all the entrepreneurs, of the world, right? We want the entrepreneurs that that are ready to kind of co-partner, that are ready to walk shoulder to shoulder, that are ready to have an executive assistant become their right hand, and step into those relationships. For us, relationships are super, super important, that they're at the heart of what we do. And so we say, like, we want all the nicest, the kindest entrepreneurs that there are. And so if you identify with that and are, kind of looking to co-partner and are really looking for a right hand and a thought partner in your business in that administrative space.
Perfect. That's awesome. One last final piece that I always like to finish off with is, if you have one thing that you want to leave us, the listeners, thinking about, or one final piece of advice that you can leave us with, what would it be?
I think, going to our little bit earlier point, you made me think, as, you were kind of saying, oh, maybe that's not the expected path, but it's more authentic. As an entrepreneur in the very beginning, I really felt like I am doing something wrong if I'm growing organically. That felt like this is not the ideal entrepreneurial path. What I thought the ideal entrepreneurial path was: start fast, dominate the market, exit immediately. So that's what I had to battle with myself and with my own ego for a while, because I saw that as the success metric is like, how fast, what you can do quickly in the first 1 to 2 years, and how quickly you can have an exit, and what the dollar amount of the exit is. And another thing that I think took me longer than I wish was coming to the understanding that, stability, peace, harmony, lack of friction, those are all KPIs that we can use to measure, how we're doing. And businesses, don't have to look for kind of big investments and big exits. And those are amazing, incredible things, and it could be the correct thing for your model. But if it isn't, and you like to grow slowly, it's not, it's a great thing as well. I think that both of them kind of have their pluses and minuses. But for me, for a long time, I didn't even consider that it was a path. I ended up on that path kind of reluctantly. Mm-hmm. But I wish, I had more kind of presence and awareness and just patience in the beginning, that it could look like this, and that could be a really great way to do things. And today I wouldn't do anything differently, because I felt like it was a limitation to grow slow or slower. Because I was thinking, other people are getting funding and they're going to go faster. But now I realize it's freedom. I gave myself, not on purpose, because it just didn't happen, but I have freedom today, being the only owner of the organization. I can structure my life, my business in any way that I like. And it's really freeing. It's such a cool and creative process, and it's been really fun. So if anyone struggles with that, that's what I'd like to share.
Yeah, I love that. And it's kind of cool. You can look back in hindsight of, now you learned that thing and you're like, I'm so happy and thankful that it kind of happened that way. So hopefully others will definitely resonate with that message. I think that's really important. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I definitely got some takeaways from it. I hope the listeners did as well. So thanks so much for sharing some of your wisdom.
Thank you.